예, 시간이 약간 지연됐습니다. 이어서 저희들 오전 세션의 중요한 시간인 패널 토론 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 오늘 패널 토론의 주제는 Key Factor for the Vitalization of Smart TV Ecosystem, Who, What and How라는 주제로 전 세계에서 여러분이 참석자들이 참석하셔서 활발한 토론을 해주시겠습니다. 자리가 셋업되는 대로 저장 및 패널 여러분들 무대로 올라오시기 바랍니다. 오늘 패널 주제는 스마트 TV 생태계 활성화를 위한 핵심 요소에 대해서 주체, 대상, 방법 등을 국내 각 분야별 전문가들을 모시고 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 시간 관계상 제가 다 올라오시기 전에 패널을 리딩하실 분들을 소개해 드리도록 하겠습니다. 오늘 패널의 좌장은 한국방송통신대학교 미디어영상학부 이영음 교수님께서 수고하시겠습니다. 패널리스트로는 이탈리아 민영방송사 미디아셋의 미스터 안젤로 페타치, 또 세계적인 네트워크 장비 및 솔루션 기업인 시스코의 미스터 크리스 오시카, 스텝토 앤 존슨 LLP 지적재산권 관련 변호사님이십니다. 톰 페스터넥, 또 세계 최대의 컴퓨터 소프트웨어 회사인 마이크로소프트의 톰 저쇼, 그 다음에 한국에서는 KT 중앙연구소 정한욱 소장님께서 패널리스트로 수고하시겠습니다. 조금 있다가 셋업되는 대로 다 올라오 주시면 뜨거운 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다. 예, 단상이 셋업됐으니까 이제 마이크를 오늘 좌장을 맡으실 이영음 교수님께 넘기겠습니다. 여러분 뜨거운 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
감사합니다. 저희가 시간이 좀 지체가 돼서 이번 세션 약간 좀 시간이 좀 줄어들 게 같습니다. 여러분들 점심 너무 늦어지지 않게 하기 위해서 시간을 줄이는 거니까 너무 섭섭해하지 마시기 바랍니다. Thank you very much. We have about an hour to speak about smart TVs. The title of our panel session is Key Factors for the Vitalization of Smart TV Ecosystem. Who, what, and how. And since all the speakers have been introduced, I will just get right to it. Well, first of all, let's just start with trying to draw a general picture of the current state of the smart TV ecosystem. My first question, well, how would you describe the current state of the smart TV ecosystem in general? Do you think it's rosy? Do you think it's gray? Anyone? Yes, Mr. Pitanzi?
Hello? Okay, thank you. So the current state of the smart TV ecosystem is an interesting question. We have heard from Anthony before something very interesting about that, and I can share with you my point of view from this very interesting topic. I'm from Italy. Mediaset is the major commercial broadcaster in Italy, and we are trying to exploit this new technology with this new ecosystem that seems really interesting in terms of possibilities. I think, and my company is very keen in trying to understanding how to exploit this technology. That seems something really important in terms of innovation and delivering a new experience to the viewer. Although the video linear TV is still, I would say, the king and is still improving in terms of time spending in front of the TV, these new devices that are connectable to the broadband, to the internet, seems to be an opportunity to offer something more to the viewer, to innovate the video experience, the viewing experience, especially if we think and if we put together something more together with the TV. I'm referring to the companion screens that, in our opinion, is something that could be really, really interesting in terms of delivery a new complete and a new video experience to the viewer.
So you're emphasizing not only the versatility of the new system, but also the possibility to connect it to other mobile devices in terms of when you're speaking about companion.
Yes, exactly, absolutely.
Okay, so this is the view of you coming from a broadcaster, an existing broadcaster's point of view. Yes, Mr. Osika.
Yeah, I mean, from a standpoint, a couple of things that I think that are important. One is that when I think about smart TV, I think about it very broadly. I think about it as smart devices, and to some extent, the TV is frankly catching up. So when we look at the endpoint or the consumption of video, it's pervasive across all these devices. I see like 2013 as being a very significant year from a standpoint of from smart TV, but also from video, and I'll tell you why. One is that there's many pieces that have to come together. We've talked about the future of video, we've talked about end screen, we've talked about all these over the last 5-6 years, but what's changed between the last 12 months and what I see going into 2013 is, number one, you're seeing a lot of the infrastructure fall in place, not just from the network standpoint, but you're seeing a lot of it from the cloud standpoint, you're seeing a lot of it from DRM. You know, we spend a lot of time with the media companies, the media producers, the studios, all of the content providers. There's a much greater open-mindedness in terms of pushing that into a new realm of really anywhere, any place. The final thing that's coming into place that I see is really we're sitting right at the knee of, frankly, the curve, why this could really explode, is I see the business models finally beginning to blossom. We are seeing the diversity of business models that you're going to really begin to see this market take off. So I see it as a very positive sign. I think we're right at the beginning. We're not, certainly not at the end of the beginning. I think we're certainly quickly following ourselves into the growth stage.
When you're speaking about infrastructure, DRMs, and business models, you seem to be speaking not just about smart TVs, but smart devices,
Yeah.
video in general.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, this artifact of a TV is a little bit of an old artifact, right? I mean, the future is screens. I mean, the future is going to be every type of modality of a screen, and you know, we hear about things like everything from wearable screens to every kind of future sort of instantiation of a consumption interface, and it's going to take many different forms. But I think the TV, of course, is one that's not going to fall quickly, and certainly going to be around a very long time. We're seeing that, right? I mean, people are not reducing their TV time. What they're doing is, I don't know what they're spending less time. Maybe they're not sleeping or spending less time with their friends or family, but I think they're taking on more and more video experiences across all modalities.
Yeah, so I don't think anybody would challenge your emphasis on video. Well, coming from a cloud service provider, Mr. Kershaw.
Yes, well, Microsoft actually, we play across multiple ecosystems. We play across DRM, adaptive rate streaming. We've had several decades of actually working together with industry partners like the TV manufacturers, the content providers, the studios, and building ecosystems that are beneficial for customers and our partners alike. So we really think that this is the dawn of really where smart TVs can go. However, there are several challenges that need to be overcome. If you look at the interface on most TVs, and I think Anthony mentioned it here, they're mostly being held back by the set-top boxes that are being placed in front of them, which don't allow the innovativeness to actually occur on that screen. I think as an industry, we need to move forward and correct that. One of the things that I think the cloud can bring is a tremendous amount of efficiencies across multiple different layers. One of the interesting statistics is just the energy consumption that DVRs take up in the household. 3 DVRs equate to 1 refrigerator running in a household. So there's tremendous power savings. Think of the power consumption, green type of environmental changes we can make by slimming down the heaviness of what you see in those digital video recorders and moving a lot of that infrastructure up to the cloud, making it much more cost effective, giving the flexibility to the manufacturers and bringing more innovation to consumers. So I think together we can move this industry forward. I think there's tremendous potential in the largest screen of the home. That will always be the dominant place where people will want to watch long-form content. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity if we can, again, bond together, work through some of the business issues, some of the regulatory issues. The technical issues are there too. There's HTML5 is a great open system, but it lacks a lot of the robustness that we have in DRM systems today and some of the smooth streaming systems. So you're going to see a bridge that will have to be built in terms of we get to an HTML5 open system platform. That won't happen for a couple more years, but again, I think this is the dawn. I think we can work together and we can bring together some really innovative services and capabilities to the industry.
Thank you. Well, you seem to also be drawing a very rosy picture for the smart TV, but it seems to me that you're speaking about not just about smart TVs, but about smart devices, video devices in general. And I would like to get back to that issue in a while. Dr. Tom, would you like to add to this?
Okay. When I want to ask the question to all of us, when you see TV, do you see TV or you see the program TV? So I'm saying that the difference between service and product. I just think to myself, is smart TV the product or service? So far, TV had been just a terminal to receive a service from the air. It's like education area school. Right now, by the smart TV, they are trying to change the product into a service. As we heard in the keynote speech by Anthony Day, to make this smart TV be successful, I think the key success factor is the combination of product and application providers, including OTT providers, including broadcasting company providers, including any key So right now, I saw a ceremony today for making a good application, but it's a contradictory ceremony. To make this smart TV really successful, the most important key in service is video itself. The combination of TV and other video operator is together to that by a basic standard or some government recommendation. Smart TV should be ready for receiving all kind of video service. Now, LG Samsung is kind of making that kind of service available only for some partnership basis. But in this kind of partnership contract basis, the smart TV cannot be successful.
Well, as you can see, the success of smart TV depends on a host of things, and we have seen the view from various players in the market. Well, I would like to move on to my next question, which is what your company's strategy in the smart TV market is. Well, let's first start with Mr. Restaurant. Well, from a litigation point of view, I wanted you to have your say. Well, what kind of things is your company involved in terms of smart TVs?
Well, I come from a different part of the ecosystem, in that I'm a patent litigator, and so in getting ready for a session I'll be speaking about later today, it's sort of, I think the title is Smart TV Patent Wars. I took a look at, and this is kind of where we fit in. Everyone has heard by now, because it's on the front page of the newspaper every day, about the smartphone patent wars. And so what patent lawyers do is they sit around and try to predict what the next big patent war is going to be, so that they can get involved, right? That's what we do. So I took a look at sort of trends in intellectual property, trends in patent filings, trends in what some of the companies are doing as far as their intellectual property with regard to smart television features. And I don't want to give away everything I'm going to talk about this afternoon, but from that perspective, from sort of the patent intellectual property perspective on this industry, I agree with what I've been hearing, in that there seems to be an explosion about to start. There are some big cases out there. They don't get a lot of publicity. I think there's more coming, and the big companies and small companies are all filing patents and getting patents in this space. So, and I'll get into more detail on some of that this afternoon, but it looks like this could be the next big patent war. But it all, in my view, it's all dependent on where the market goes.
Okay, well, I think I actually should have defined what smart TV is in the beginning, because we seem to be talking about smart devices in general. Well, let's just stay with that topic, smart devices in general. And so can you describe what your company, is involved in terms of the smart device market? So what is Microsoft doing?
As again, I mean, we participate in Microsoft at many different levels in terms of enabling devices. So at the very foundation, what we do is we provide DRM systems, smooth streaming, porting kits to any consumer electronics device manufacturer to the bed, much like Anthony has done with his devices. So you need to basically start at the fundamental building block in terms of how you enable good video, protected video into the devices. And Microsoft participates in terms of building out an ecosystem. Again, we like to build on standards as much as anybody. We have a smooth streaming protocol, which is a proprietary protocol, but we're very much interested in pushing standards such as Dash. Dash is an open standard for adaptive bitrate streaming. So the company is very active in trying to promote standards, but realizing we're living in a world of multiple ecosystems. You have Apple ecosystems, you have Android, you have Microsoft ecosystems. So for the foreseeable future, you need a harmonization strategy in terms of how you're going to get content to multiple devices if you're a content provider, a broadcaster, or a cable provider. So where we see the cloud really coming in is a tremendous capability of democratizing the ability for content generation and content distribution on a global basis. So Microsoft, Amazon, Google, we're building out giant data centers that will make it very cost effective for any broadcaster, any content provider to rent out instead of purchasing infrastructure to build professional grade video that then can be delivered to smart TVs and device ecosystems. So I think smart device manufacturers need to be thinking about a threefold strategy. You need to be thinking about creating very cool and very innovative hardware. You need to marry that hardware with a great software base that includes user interfaces, and then you have to have a cloud strategy. I think every device in the near-term future is going to have personal storage. We have one that's called SkyDrive. Apple has theirs. You need to basically be thinking along the lines of how do I innovate? How do I drive new services, new features that will distinguish my devices with my device ecosystem against the others? So I think it's a very interesting time, very open for innovation. So we're happy to be here to participate.
Yes. We thought we would have Apple and Google TV. Now we have Amazon and Microsoft with your Surface as well. As for Cisco.
Sure. From a video standpoint, I think video sort of drives at the DNA of Cisco. I mean, first of all, when you think about it, and I think most of those of you who are service providers in the room realize that your networks are being absolutely overwhelmed with video, whether it's mobile video, whether it's landline or fixed-based video. So, I mean, clearly one of our goals is to optimize that on the network and the handling and the management of that on the network. It's going to be absolutely critical and absolutely key, because if that part of the ecosystem really comes under pressure, it could bring down many of the other pieces. So that's one important thing. The other thing is, over the past 6 years, we've been on a bit of an acquisition spree as it relates to video. We spent probably just about $15 billion across the entire ecosystem. Our bets are obviously on content management, and we're going to be talking later on about CDN. The other important aspect that I think is really important is really the aspect of analytics. The importance of analytics, not just for advanced advertising, but analytics for creating those new, and one of the questions before was, is it a product or is it a service? I honestly think it's an experience. People buy a video experience, whether that takes a piece of hardware, software, or anything else to deliver it, is almost after the fact. It's really, I'm buying a lifestyle or an experience as it relates to video. The other aspect is, as we kind of look at it from content management, there's also all these pieces. One of the facts that people don't realize is that the overwhelming archives of content are not digitized yet. There's a tremendous opportunity to digitize that content for the delivery of that content. So there's a lot of pieces, as I mentioned earlier, I think are coming together. But I mean, at the end of the day, for us from Cisco, our bets are optimizing our content management on the network. Cloud, I think, is going to be a critical, important aspect of delivering these future experiences. But the third thing that's really critically important, is kind of fights at the DNA of it, is really related to analytics, because that's going to make all the other pieces work very seamlessly together.
Yes, definitely. Also, from a broadcaster's point of view, what is your company doing?
Yes, sure. As broadcasters, we would like to deliver compelling services easily, cost-effective, on every platform. And the issue we are facing right now is that the market, the smart TV market, is a real fragmented market. A broadcaster has to build an application, a lot of time for different brands. So this is becoming really a mess for someone who would like to deliver the same video experience to the viewer. So this is why our aim is to have something that could be easily exploited once for every device. Standards are really, really important for broadcasters, and this is something that, as said before, could change the paradigm from different brands or different devices into a platform. This is we would like to have, and on the largest base as possible. That's why we think that exploiting that is something very important. Another thing is to deliver cost-effective your service, and I think the cloud solution could be the best way to deliver this kind of services in scalable way, paying only for the viewer that are watching your service.
So as a content provider, you are willing to provide your services to any cloud service provider like Google or Amazon, or are you trying to create a cloud of your own?
We for sure in the future, if we are going when we are going to deliver this kind of services, and the staff, the service could be, I foresee 2013 as a possible good year to launch these kind of services in Italy. Of course, we are thinking to exploit this kind of cloud solution because I think the business has to be sustainable, and one way to do that is for sure exploiting this kind of solutions proposed.
Yes, I
by-
think it is a very confusing time for many of the players. Korean broadcasters are also trying to find a way to maximize their profit and maximize their viewership, either through their own applications, their devices sometimes, and also through OTT service providers as well. Okay, so it is a very confusing picture. I mean, I think we have managed to draw a very mixed up picture of what the future holds for smart TV. A very confusing, but a very promising future. Well, there are, as you can see, there are so many different players in the market. Content providers, OS, platform, network, devices. Well, what kind of service that is currently available do you think looks most promising in the future? Dr. Song?
The smarter the device becomes, we think we can share the more chance among the players. One thing, one critical application by the smart TV or smart device is, I think, interactivity. So far, the linear TV is just sitting sofa and seeing video after selection, 1 over 1,000, 1 over 100. Now, after making the device smarter, customer can participate or make a response after seing the video.
So you're saying that interactivity,
Interactivity
the
is
additional interactivity is the additional feature that will make it more appealing to the users. But is there any service currently that is providing seemingly satisfactory interactivity then?
So far, our KT's TV system is through our kind of a proprietary platform. It's interactive, but it's not fully interactive. So we have planned to make our system into web-enabled platform and terminals, so that we want to invite all the application providers, application makers, which make mix of their interactivity with the linear kind of TV, including social network, including voting, or some personalization, etc. Just the playing game using the TV is not, I think, is secondary, but it's not, I think, the key application.
Okay, so I guess we understand your that KT's IPTV service is trying to become better. Well, besides Microsoft, besides Mediaset, what service do you see looks promising?
What I think is the biggest breakthrough, the next biggest breakthrough. I'm not a firm believer in a lot of interactivity around a 42 or 70-inch television set. I think most people go to the television set because they want to be told a story, they want to watch a movie. When you get into these interactive scenarios, I think they're better for a second screen or a smaller screen device. What we saw in broadcasting the 2012 Olympic Games in London is the ability to allow the viewer to see every Olympic event live. That hadn't been done before. And once you did that, you gave the viewer another compelling reason to go watch the TV. Because all of a sudden, all the events were happening. It wasn't just being editorialized to 1 or 2 channels. you saw 30 live HD streams coming at you, and that was pretty phenomenal. And what we saw that viewership actually increased, and it increased by the amount of devices they had in the home. So as more viewers had more devices, they actually got more usage out of their TV set. So it wasn't a cannibalization feature. So I think giving people just more content and good content will actually drive a lot more usage of the TV screen. The other thing is, and it goes along with this, is a navigation system. I think the navigation systems on these TVs are terrible right now. I have DirecTV, and I love the service because I get to watch all my NFL games. But to actually go in and try to search through a video catalog by triple tapping into a handset is painful, and it's a terrible experience. And I think we can do so much better as an industry if we can just get over some of these basic hurdles.
Well, I actually have a comment here.
Okay.
If you look at intellectual property as a gauge of where it's going again, interactivity and the program guides and the user experience from the intellectual property standpoint, that's where a lot of the action is, interestingly enough, and it totally coincides with what these people are saying. A lot of the patents I looked at are the user interface. There's patents on voice actuation to guide a smart TV. There's patents on using a cell phone as your controller for the smart TV. So again, from my perspective, all of this is making sense on what is going on with the intellectual property in this area.
Okay, well, KT and Microsoft, I understand, are not willing to name any other service that is better than you. Well, since Cisco is not trying to provide any platform, what do you see as?
Yeah, I mean, we're mostly from an enabler standpoint. I mean, we don't deliver the service. So, I mean, there's a couple of points. I don't believe the future is search. I think the future is personalization. Content's going to find you. I think Netflix does a phenomenal job, frankly, of content finding you. I mean, there may be other challenges that crosswinds that Netflix is going to face in the future. But if there's one thing that they've done extraordinarily well is around personalization. The amount of content that people watch that's actually recommended content within Netflix is astronomically high. And I mean, think about as a content provider, the value of having someone that can actually not only provide content to the right individuals, but one of the interesting things, I spent time with one of the major media companies in the US, and back to my point around analytics, one of the things that they had mentioned, they gave me anecdotal information where Netflix was able to come back and mine their content to actually go find episodes of TV shows that were more than 10 years old and actually be able to recommend those to certain individuals. Suddenly they were able to revive content that had all been written off by the content provider. It's that kind of new value that I think is extraordinarily welcomed. I think back to your point about fumbling through the user interface to do search. I think in general, and a lot of our research has shown, people don't want to search. They want it to find them. I think that's going to be an important, very, very important aspect. And I mean, frankly, that's one of the reasons why we're so focused on analytics.
And that's right. And that's why you've been emphasizing analytics. Okay. But let's just move on to a slightly different topic. Smart TV, smart devices. There are going to be a lot of developments in terms of technology, in terms of platform, in terms of interface, and so on. What were some of the really major developments during the past year in terms of delivering video on these smart devices?
Yeah, I think there have been lots of development in terms of technology. The the devices are very, very advanced in terms of delivery a very well video experience in terms of adaptive streaming, in terms of other protection of contents. So right now you can really have services and platforms around Europe, for instance. I can mention YouView, for instance, or Rumble in Belgium, or Germany Golds in German, where these platforms are aimed at delivering services in a protected way and with interfaces very well thought and exploited. And also, I would say, with a proposition that is unique in terms of a unique point of access to the content. I think this is very important because, for instance, Rumble that is this idea in Belgium to gather together public broadcaster and commercial broadcaster in order to offer the viewers a content from different from the three different broadcasters through a unique point of access on the TV set and on smart devices is a very, very interesting proposition, because it's something that is going to give advantage in terms of saving on costs, because you have only one interface.
So you're emphasizing
Yeah.
the
cooperative
collaboration
idea to have
of content providers is one thing that you've been seeing. Anything patent-wise?
I can't really speak to that because the problem with patents is they sort of lag the technology. So the things I'm looking at now are things that were developed maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm a little bit behind.
Okay. Well, you've mentioned DRMs and infrastructure and analytics, and I assume that those were the areas that have really developed, or would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to say that the biggest development was a technology development, but I honestly think the biggest development that occurred last year was actually a behavioral element, so end-user behavior. And Tom actually touched on this, but the Olympics, I mean, what they discovered in the Olympics, so NBC sponsored and it had the US rights for the Olympics. I think it was the most costly event in terms of actual sponsorship in the history of mankind. So they certainly were not looking, certainly would have been very cognizant of they saw cannibalization. In my understanding, NBC started out the Olympics by not live streaming the opening ceremonies. And during the course of the Olympics, the 17 or 18 days, discovered that the humans who were watching this actually saw a stimulative effect in terms of seeing, not cannibalizing linear TV, but actually amplifying linear TV to the point where, that has been, I think, one of the biggest impediments to the content providers is their unwillingness to sort of cannibalize their lifeblood, which has been, for the most part, through linear TV. I believe that was one of the biggest eye-opening experiences. And by the end of the Olympics, during the course of that 17 or 18 days, NBC made a conscious choice to begin live streaming a lot of events. And by the end, they live streamed the closing ceremonies. So in my mind, that was a tipping point that's going to have, I think, profound impacts on content providers' willingness to actually share content, particularly in an IP format, through other devices, through other areas, other modalities. I think that's probably the biggest event that occurred this last year.
Would you, yeah.
I'd like to comment on that as well. I mean, we worked with France TV, RTV in Spain, CTV in Canada, and Terra in South America. So we were able to broadcast, along with NBC, the Olympics live across 4 different continents. And I think it was a milestone event for all broadcasters, because the broadcasters didn't realize going into the games what impact the live streaming would have on their viewership. So they didn't really promote it that much. and there's still a lot of work to go. But what they did is they came out of that, and it was an aha moment. It was a light bulb that went off in their head, and they could see that broadcasting live streaming actually helped the viewership across the entire household. So I think there's no turning back at this point. I think I was in Korea a couple weeks ago, and we met with a consortium around the Korean broadcasters called POOK. And it's a very interesting setup. What they want to do, and I think this is going to happen across the entire globe, is they're going to take Korean content, both catch-up and live streams, and they'll package that in a way, deliver it through the cloud on a global basis. And so they'll be basically providing news services to people who want to view Korean content in Japan and China, Southeast Asia, and North America. Tremendous opportunity, and also a great opportunity for device manufacturers to take those types of content streams, which aren't available through your cable provider, your satellite provider, and land those on your devices. So again, I think live TV was the event that happened this year, and I think it's going full force into the future.
Well, I think this is a very good time for us to try to make a distinction between the mobile smart devices and the stationary smart TVs that is manufactured by Samsung and LG, for example. Well, do you see any difference? Well, Tom mentioned that the mobile devices could be used as companion screens or secondary screens. I mean, do you see any differences? Because the stationary smart TV is a full-featured one with big screen. Does that have any specific merit compared to a mobile device? Well, how would you assess the two different types of devices?
Yeah, big difference, I think. TV set is a shared device. People is watching television together, normally, on the sofa. The smartphone or the tablet PC is a personal device. How to join them? I think there are very interesting opportunities, as I said before, in joining that, because you are able to deliver an enhanced experience. We were before talking about interactivity. I strongly believe that in the future, I work in this field, in the interactivity field, since 2003, when we started with MHP applications on the TV sets. And at that time, we thought that the application were on the TV screen, superimposed into the video. Right now, it is not anymore like that, because probably in the future, the interactivity is going to migrate from the main screen to the companion screen.
So, but you seem to be just emphasizing that the TV screen is going to be interactive and is going to have the ability to do things that these mobile devices are able to do. Well, do you see any really big advantages or disadvantages of these devices? Dr. Zhao? Or what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
smart TV and smart mobile is like home and cars. You can use the same video through smart TV set or smartphone, but the meaning for all of us is different. First of all, the smart TV is we are trying to create a new business chance, changing TV into smarter. But the smartphone is already here. It is developing another extra broadcasting network and application. Is not, I think, the issue of this summit. So it's better to concentrate on how to make the TV smarter and share the great chance to all participants, for the content makers and network providers and TV manufacturers. I think the point is better to focus on that point.
So just, okay. Focus on how to make the TV smarter. because it is just, I mean, do you see it as another N, as one of the N screens? Or is it, I mean, I mean, during the Olympics, you said that people, I mean, the viewership increased according to the number of devices, smart devices. But do you think there was any difference?
Well, there's a couple things going on here. First, there's a generational thing that's going on. I have an 8-year-old daughter at home, and the concept of a TV for my 8-year-old daughter is radically different than her father, who grew up with an actual TV that had to stand up and turn to actually change the channel. She has no concept of there's a difference watching her TV shows on a phone versus a tablet versus a television. It's just video. And I think to the extent that the rest of the viewing public, and we can mimic that, I think there's a lot of potential in terms of how those devices support each other. And going back to the Olympics example, what we heard is that a viewer without a companion device watched on average 4 hours of the Olympics a day, the American household. But when they had one smart companion device, that viewership went up 2 hours. When they had another device in the household, it increased even more. So what you're seeing is a collaborative effect where these devices support each other. And again, if you're going to watch a long-form video, if you're going to watch a big sporting event, you're not going to crowd around a 4-inch screen and watch that, the Super Bowl or the World Cup. You're going to go to a 70-inch screen or a 42-inch screen and watch that. It's a different experience, but again, I think the relationship between those devices actually support each other and they don't cannibalize each other.
Very interesting point. Would you like
Yeah,
to
on the mobile video side, I mean, there's a couple of important sort of behavioral aspects to understand on that as well. The overwhelming proportion of people who watch mobile video do it in and around their home. They're not doing it on the road, and that may differ when you're in certain communities where you've got long commutes. Now, I understand that. But if you look across entire countries, et cetera, it is within the home. So you're seeing an awful lot of mobile activity take place within the home. The other aspect is, as we think about that mobile video and mobile streaming, particularly when you get into unicast models, it just reinforces, if you're a mobile carrier, the utmost importance, a couple of things. One is to optimize the delivery of that content so that you can, frankly, not overwhelm the network. But the other aspect is to use other than just licensed spectrum. So therein comes the aspect of using things like Wi-Fi or other means of delivering that video. Once again, the majority of people that are watching video, hopefully they're not driving their car when they're watching the video. The overwhelming portion of those are doing that in and around a fixed location. A lot of that can be picked off through other means than just licensed spectrum. I mean, there's a lot of challenges going to face the industry if uptick, demand and growth really proceeds in exactly the same way it is right now. It's going to quickly sort of take up and consume an awful lot of that network capacity.
Very interesting. So you think that it is going to be actually complementary, not one or the other. Very interesting. Well, I think this has to be our last question because we are running short of time. What do you see are the challenges that are facing the development of smart TVs in the future?
As far as I know, the challenge is not making embedding certain technology like HTML5 or APIs inside the terminal, but the challenge is how to make this smart TV as a new business chance, making a common standard like NTSC PAL is a common standard so that we could create a common market. But right now, the smart TV, they are trying to make their own platform, the service provider, so it chopped the entire market into pieces, so nobody can easily jump in. I think it's better to make a common business standard, so we can share video and any component equipment makers, network providers can easily, openly, and I think share the chance. I think it's the issue. not only the technical issues, some business issues. So for that matter, we need some kind of consortium, some government recommendations, some voluntary activities, etc.
I think that's an excellent point. Would anybody else like to add to that?
I'll mention, I don't think the biggest issues are technology. I think the biggest issues are content rights, regulatory issues. Especially what we see in the United States is that, and business models. I mean, let's face it. I mean, the content owners are going to go and distribute their content to the business models that are currently paying them the most dollars for that content. And right now, that's the pay TV model in the United States, and that's controlled by an interface that comes with a set-top box. Until you can get in line with how you can work with that business model and get more innovation, the majority of people who are getting pay TV signals will always be basically behind that user interface. So again, I think it's more of a business model. The industry will figure it out. The technology is there. If you can deliver great video on a Xbox or on a mobile phone or on a PC or a tablet, there's no reason why you can't deliver it to a bigger screen.
Yeah, I agree completely with Tom. I would say something more in terms of video experience you are able to deliver it to your viewers, to your subscribers. I think this is a key point. One of together with what Tom said before, the content right issue, delivery the best possible video experience to the viewer, building easy and simple interfaces to your nonlinear service is really challenging the key point for a good service in the future.
Yeah, I mean, one other thing just to add, and we didn't really talk about it in this forum, but one of the other major, when you talk to a lot of the content providers, the media companies, is really around personal data and privacy as well. So how is, we can create a tremendous experience for the end user when we don't have to worry about personal data or privacy. But when that all becomes a factor, that puts I think, a dampening effect on some of the innovation that really could occur in the marketplace. And you hope that will be mitigated, but over the last 12 months, 18 months, the amount of negative press that some of the web guys have gotten over the way that they've used personal data has been a big challenge. And I think a lot of the network service providers of the world, they are really, really, really scared of how they could get into a bind, because that is not just a legal regulatory issue, but it's a public relations challenge that doesn't go away quick once you've got a problem.
Yes, I think the things that we've been talking about here will be discussed in much more detail in the afternoon sessions in terms of specific presentations. But I think we were able to touch on some of the very important issues that smart TV needs to pay attention to in the coming years. One is to make sure, to try to deal with the content rights. The other is to make sure that the user experience is very simple. And also, in order to make the user experience very personalized and easy to use, you would have to deal with personal data. One other thing that actually came up is the fact that smart TVs are actually complementary to other smart devices, and that the smart TV developers need to try to come up with a common standard that they could apply to their devices so that it will work very well with the other secondary devices as well. Which leads me to think that these are all the issues that have been mentioned in our keynote speech, maybe in a bit more detail. But we will be able to talk more about this in the afternoon session. Yes, and I think we can end our panel session. Yes, thank you very much for a very lively discussion.
예, 수고하신 여러 패널리스트에게 뜨거운 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 우리 이영음 교수님 수고 많이 하셨습니다.